Hello everyone, bringing you another unboxing video today. I know it might be getting a bit samey, more Australian kit. This is somewhat different. This is primarily Auscam, the DPCU uniform and the disruptive pattern equipment, the M1988 equipment. I do know roughly what's in this box. It's various items put together for me by my friend Kieran from eBay listings that I had shipped to him, and bits and pieces off Gumtree as well. So thank you very much to him for sorting me out with this. There's also some items to complete the green M1988 equipment, if I remember correctly. But we'll see exactly what's in the box now. We'll go and have a look at the contents.
Okay, so here we've got the rather large box that's arrived from Australia with more Australian kit in it. From Kieran, my friend, who's very kindly put some bits and pieces together for me and received some items from eBay to send across in one big batch, which makes international shipping a bit more cost effective. Big C-mail package here. You can see just quite how big this is. It's a big old box. I've undone the tape already to save a bit of messing around in the video. I'll move this to one side now and we can have a look at what's inside, what's arrived from Australia. Okay, so we'll take these bits out one piece at a time. Well, I say one piece at a time. I think the first bit is going to be one big lot of stuff in one go, but never mind. It's all together here. This is Australian DP and 1988 equipment, webbing, in the Australian, well, colloquially known as Auscam, the Australian disruptive pattern camouflage, which is also used for the DPCU, the disruptive pattern camouflage uniform. We have two mini-me pouches, obviously the hip pad, belt in there, which appears to be on the wrong way around, so adjustment needed there. The later compass, enlarged compass first aid pouch, the Canteen covers from the set, a bum pack, and then on the other side we have another Canteen and another mini-me pouch. There's something in here, if I remember correctly. This contains one of the 70s, in fact the label's out there, that's very convenient, the 70s waterproof or coats psychological, which is a rather nice thing to have another one of these. That came with the set. I think this was a Gumtree purchase, if I remember, that Kieran put together for me. So we'll move that stuff off to one side. Get the next bit out. This is a lot of disruptive pattern Australian camouflage in here. So we have a shirt from that uniform, the 90s dated, I think, if I remember correctly. 1990, 1991, 1997, not sure there. But anyway, 1990s example. There is a hat as well from that, the large brimmed, the wide brimmed boonie hat, as you can see there, from that set. It's quite interesting. Oh, toweling material on the back there. There's a sweat rag, presumably, catch the sweat. See, chin cord there, neck cord. Oh, and toweling in the top as well. So obviously quite absorbent of sweat. Interesting part of the design. And we have a date in there, 1997, as you can see, hopefully. So that's a nice addition too. There should be other bits of that uniform. Okay, we have a pair of trousers here. You can see the leg pocket there, obviously all stuff for future videos to take a more detailed look at. But these are again 1993 dated in this instance. So rather nice to have those. I think there is another pair of trousers in here somewhere. Another thing that actually came with the webbing, if I remember correctly, is a piece of scrim, or sweat rag rather, in sort of more of an olive colour than the green ones you tend to see in British use. So that's something to finish the uniform on the mannequin. Heavily padded section. I believe this is for, again, it's in Auscam, as you can see. I believe this is for the Alice pack system, if I remember correctly. I'm sure I'll be corrected on that if not, but anyway, heavy padded shoulder straps there, as you can see. They just came as part of one of the job lots, if I remember correctly. Another pair of trousers in here. Get these out. Oop, knocking things over. Another pair of trousers. These again, I think, are also 90s dated, if I remember correctly, 1998 or 1999, I think the label there. These are quite a small size, but again, they came as a job lot with other bits and pieces. If I remember correctly, as I say, it's a little while since all this was bought. It takes a while for things to get over by C-mail. Another example of the enlarged well, it's basically an enlarged version of the compass first aid pouch. Obviously 2 slide keepers, 2 Alice clips on the rear instead of 1, 2 press studs to close it tighter or looser depending on what you've got in there. And that's 2007 dated, I think, or 2000 and something anyway. I can't remember what it was listed as now, but that's a nice in relatively unissued condition. What else do we have? Another of the disruptive pattern camouflage Canteen covers, the M1988 Canteen covers. Again, in quite nice condition. I think this has been issued, but it's not particularly heavily worn, so that was a nice thing to pick up. As you can see, still has the slide keepers and the M1910 style hanger hooks on the back, so Australia really carried on with that design for a long time, adapting it. A couple of stayer pouches, or austere pouches. You can see there again, slide keepers on the back, and again part of the disruptive pattern M1988 webbing, excuse me. Actually slightly different colour on the plastic there, as you can see, more of a green here, and then the olive, the more of the tan olive colour. Both made by Cantus, which is a common Australian manufacturer of this sort of kit. You can see there. So again, all stuff for future videos to look at in more detail. We have another couple of the mini-me pouches here. Cantus 1990 and 1993. This one's in very nice condition, I think possibly unissued, and this one obviously more heavily used, so it's nice to have different sort of conditions of them. I certainly wanted to pick this up, as I remember it was part of a job lot, but in very nice condition. I think this came with the stayer pouches, so that's nice to have as well. As I say, the thing with this stuff is buy it when it's surplus, because I'm interested in it, so I'm trying to pick it up while it's still relatively cheap. This is still M1988. I can wrestle this here, I'll leave that press stud undone. But this is the earlier green type, before the DP version was introduced. We do have a stamp on the back here, which appears to say 91, so there's a crossover there. Certainly the DP version of the equipment was around by 91, but the earlier version of the M1988 in plain green. But as you can see, we have this tab on the front, as we did on the DP ones, that has that gives you the ability to put a slide keeper through there and clip something to the front. Obviously that would, later the DP versions would have a pouch added to carry a hexi stove, but this is the earlier example, and obviously they then just made it in DP. Anyway, that's really stuff for another video. We also have in here the Canteen itself, which is dated 1981, and a cup which is 1989, so very late example there, but yeah, made in Australia. Stokes Australasia Limited, so nice to have those as a filler for that as well. Just getting a bit emptier in here now. We'll move away from webbing briefly to talk about these. These are black Australian, or obviously they're black, but as opposed to the brown, these are essentially the same pattern of boot as the late war brown Australian ankle boots, but made in black leather, but rather than brown. Obviously they would be blackened post-war and then manufactured in black leather. These date from the 1960s, if I remember. I think 67 there, and they're a size 10, so they're well, I take a 10 or an 11, so hopefully these will fit. But really nice condition there, and excellent for, although I think the ones worn early in Vietnam tended to have a rubber sole added as opposed to the cleats. Good for early Vietnam, and they'll look good on with a display with the gaiters sort of perched on them to show the early footwear that was worn before the GP boots came into service. They're from Kieran himself, so thank you very much for those, Kieran, putting them to the one side for me. Good to find in a large size. Looking forward to getting those out on display, or wearing them, even though I think the floor that I wear them on, I have to be careful of that with those heavy cleats on, to go around damaging anything. Another part of the M1988 kit, you'll have seen obviously the bum pack on the rear pack on the DP set that we looked at the very start. This is the green version, the earlier iteration of that kit, and the label there, 1989, I think there. Aero Equipment, QLD Australia, so Queensland, Australia, 1989, and then we've got the NATO stock number under there. So a broad arrow on the front there. So that's a nice addition to that. Oh, one of the Fastex buckles has come off. That's not good. I have to slide that back on. I'll just clip that together for now. There we go. Another piece of webbing is an Australian-made haversack. You can see, oh, there's some bits in here. I'll put them to one side for a moment. This is essentially a 1937 pattern haversack, but you'll notice it doesn't have any dividers in it. We've lost those. Hope you can see with enough light in there. There's no dividers inside. Made in, I think that's the date, 1969. Obviously, they have the Australian stock number, the NATO stock number there. And obviously broad arrow on the front. But it is essentially a 1937 pattern haversack, but obviously a very late manufacture and lacking that internal divider, which is interesting. I think volume-wise, it's a bit smaller as well, but it is designed to be used in that role. As you can see, the fittings on the outside are the same. You have buckles on the side for the brace attachments, buckles here for, and obviously the shapes here for L straps to be fitted. So that's an interesting bit of kit. Very late production in sort of a, almost, it is a tan colour, but it's got a green sort of element to it as well. So yeah, just a late production Australian made 1937 pattern haversack. And oh, we have another of the dressing pouches there. I don't know where that one's come from. I only bought one, as I remember. I hope that's not got put in by accident, but anyway, there's no date on this one, but same manufacturer, again in pretty much unissued condition. That might have come with one of the job lots, and I've somehow ended up with 3 of these without meaning to, but there we are. These bits that were inside the haversack, this is an interesting item, if you're into military kit, I suppose. This is a felt cover to go on the American style canteen. Now obviously the preceding Australian water bottle that was used, or canteen, was the enamelled British type water bottle, and this essentially was introduced to go over the plastic canteen, the US design of canteen that was manufactured in Australia, so that it could be carried inside the 1937 pattern carrier. So that's what the purpose of this is, to give a felt cover for the outside of the plastic canteen for whatever. Doesn't really seem necessary, but that's what it's for. We have a Mark 7 anti-dimming outfit. I think that came with the next thing we're going to look at. I'll put that to one side. Nothing particularly remarkable about that, but this is a quite unusual item. This is, the filter for it is here, this is an Australian light anti-gas respirator, and these are quite rare. I'm very pleased to have got our hands on this, and I need to give it a clean up. As you can see, it's in mucky condition. I know there is some rust staining, but the elastic's good. That's nice. The elastic's still in good condition. Interesting feature, support for the filter there, obviously with a hook. You've got that extra piece of elastic on the head harness. And obviously the main thing that differentiates it from British examples is the fact it's made in two-tone rubber. This is not paint. Some people think that this is a paint coating on the outside. They roughly mixed khaki and black rubber together and then cast, or moulded rather, the face pieces from it, so you get this streak camouflage effect, which is quite interesting. And obviously the exhale valve housing there and everything is painted in khaki as well, as is the filter. So yeah, a fairly rare bit of kit to find, obviously with its haversack as well. What else we've got in here? The haversack dated 1943. We'll obviously have a look at this in more detail going forward. I do have a mint version of one of these haversacks, which actually differs slightly. This is a different design with more sort of akin to the British style, British method of, more akin to the British method of obviously adjusting the shoulder strap and everything there, as opposed to the other example I have, which is slightly different. So it'll be interesting to compare those. And then we have in here, will this be tropical? Appropriately enough it is, yes. Ointment anti-gas number 6 for tropical use. So that is the contents of the box. That's everything gone through. So hopefully that is of interest. As I say, all of this will be looked at in more detail going forwards. But that's the unboxing. That's just a brief run through of the various bits and pieces that have arrived. Thank you once again for all your help, Kieran. So there we are. I hope you found that interesting. Obviously all topics to be covered in more depth in future videos. But I now have quite a nice timeline of Cold War Australian uniforms, right the way from early Vietnam War, 1950s even, certainly Malaya,
right the way through until, well, the 1990s, so the end of the Cold War essentially, which is rather nice. As you can see, I couldn't resist putting together the green M1988 equipment. The way I've assembled this with the straps and so forth is not the tidiest, but the straps on the pouches at the front, these didn't come in the box, I hasten to add. I already had these, and some of the other components I've put together. In fact, I think the bits from the box you don't see, they're actually round on the back of the equipment, so we might turn this around in a moment and just have a very quick look at that. But it's nice to have this set essentially together now. Obviously the belt and the part of the suspenders, the shoulder part of the suspenders, came in the previous unboxing video I did. I already had the dressing pocket, which is obviously an earlier example, and I also had the compass first aid pouch, that is, and I also had the pouches already as well, as with the toggle rope. But we'll spin this round in just a second and have a look at the bits that actually arrived in this box. But it does mean I've been able to put together this set now that everything's come together, which is rather nice. As I say, in terms of assembly, the way the straps are looped back on themselves to try and keep them out of the way, I don't know if that's strictly accurate. Some advice on that would be appreciated if there's anyone out there who used this set of equipment who could advise on that. Certainly the length of strap that's provided is very long, and I don't really want to go cutting it down. I'd like to keep the pouches as they were. But we'll spin this round now and we can have a look at the bits that arrived actually in this package. You can see the back of the equipment set, and obviously we have the one on the far side, we have the one canteen cover bottle carrier that arrived in this set. The other one arrived obviously in the previous unboxing, and this, the rear pack, the bum pack at the back there. All very similar to the M1956 in many ways, Australia's modified M1956, but with more modern materials in terms of nylon, polycotton, and obviously using Fastex buckles and things. So it's sort of a gradual, incremental change, and then that would go a bit further with the DP version of the equipment. And obviously another thing to mention, obviously the shirt, very late jungle green shirt, again came in the previous unboxing with the load of stuff from Steve Cheers, and the hat very kindly gifted to me by Kobe Peters previously, and that'll have come up in a previous video as well, I'm sure. So it's nice to get all this. It's a sort of amalgamate all these bits and pieces and come up with the set that we have here. But yes, any advice on exactly what you do with the loose ends of these the very long straps on that you use on the suspenders would be greatly appreciated in terms of keeping them neat and tucked out of the way. As is, I've just doubled them back down through the rings on the equipment. But obviously this is something we're going to have a look at in further detail in the future. So there we are. I do hope you found that interesting, as I always say. If you have, and you think you'd like to see more from the channel, please do consider subscribing if you haven't already, and make sure you hit the little notification button, the little bell next to that, which will alert you when I upload future videos. There is, of course, if you really like my uploads, it's possible to support the channel through both PayPal and Patreon, and a very big thank you to everyone who's supported the channel via those two methods. Links to both of those down in the description as well. I also wanted to mention here as well things like the hat here, which have been gifted by Kobe Peters. Thank you very much to everyone who's sent me bits and pieces, which allows me to put together sets like this. Obviously purchasing some parts, and some parts have been gifted, which is exceptionally generous of people. If you want to keep up with what's going on the channel and see more photographs of the mannequins and things like that, there's various social media platforms as well, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. All of those are linked down below as well. And should you wish to contact me, send photos and things, but you don't really use social media, you can do. There's an email address down below as well, should you wish to contact me via that method. But that's everything for this video. So until next time, bye for now.